Can you hear me?
Yes.
Okay. My apologies to the board. We have no cute t-shirts to hand out this evening. However, we do have a dental expert joining us via telephone. For 41 years, Dr. Bill Osmundson has been an active general dentist, currently in Bellevue, Washington. He holds a master's degree in public health, and his practice is focused on preventing dental disease at all ages, including pediatric, hospital pediatric, youth, adults, and geriatrics. Dr. Osmundson is former director of occlusion at the Las Vegas Institute for Advanced Dental Studies. For the first 25 years of practice, Dr. Osmundson promoted fluoride ingestion, either fluoridation of water and or supplements. He then read the research for himself. It was like a knee in the gut, and he now agrees with most developing countries that fluoridation must and will stop. The CDC mantra is and has been, community water fluoridation is one of the 10 great public health achievements of the 20th century. However, after much research on Dr. Osmundson's part, he now firmly believes fluoridation is one of American public health's greatest blunders of the 20th century. And I gave you all an extended bio on Dr. Osmundson, and we're going to go through a PowerPoint presentation, and hopefully you'll all be able to hear it. Go ahead, Dr. Osmundson.
Thank you very much. I appreciate this opportunity to be with you, at least in voice, if not in person, although I would love to be there. I also want to thank the professionals who have showed up to support the health of the community. And like I, who supported fluoridation for many years, I would challenge you to look at the primary research for yourself, not just what the associations put out, but look at the Library of Congress data. There are four main reasons here that I would recommend that we consider. One, many are ingesting too much fluoride. Health and Human Services even recommended a lowering of the fluoride concentration in water because many are ingesting too much fluoride. This is a serious concern. They're still ingesting too much. Two, swallowing fluoride is not FDA approved. Now, I respect the FDA. I've gotten approval of a product with them. They are tough, they are good, and I respect what they do. We need to get fluoride FDA approved before it is prescribed to people because it is a drug. Because the intent of use is to prevent disease. Fluoridation is not safe, not healthy, or effectively healthy, and not cost effective. Consensus in most developed countries is no fluoridation. Next. Here are a list of countries that do not fluoridate. Of course, you've heard that all reputable public health agencies support fluoridation. Most in the United States do, but not in the world. We have Austria rejected, Belgium rejected, Finland rejected, Germany rejected, Denmark rejected, Norway rejected, Sweden rejected, Netherlands rejected, Hungary stopped, Japan rejected, Israel, China. Many countries have said no, and most European dental associations no longer recommend fluoride supplements in a published peer-reviewed journal. Next, there are organizations, medical dental organizations in the United States that are opposed to fluoridation. One of the best that you can see of their position paper, very science-based, is the International Academy of Oral Medicine and Toxicology, IAOMT.org. Look at their position on fluoride. The Netherlands, at present, the addition of chemicals to drinking water is prohibited by law in the Netherlands. This law came into effect because it was widely perceived that drinking water should not be used as a vehicle for pharmaceuticals. It is a drug. Furthermore, fluoridation of drinking water would conflict with the freedom to choose for natural drinking water. Next. First thing I did, I was walking down the hall of my office and I thought, I need to look at fluoride once again. I didn't want to look at other areas in depth, but I should look at fluoride. And so I looked down, and here was a basket full of toothpaste tubes. I grabbed one, pulled it out, and I read the label, which I hadn't done for years. And it says drug fats. Well, of course, it's a drug because the intent is to prevent disease. It has a label. All drugs have labels. If they're approved, if they're not approved, they don't have a label. That label says, one of the things is do not swallow. Well, that's pretty simple. Next, it also says use a pea-sized amount. Okay, how much should we not swallow? A pea-sized amount. So I measured out a pea-sized amount, and this amount of a toothbrush that you see above is actually twice as much as the FDA recommends at a quarter milligram. That's their concern. A quarter milligram of fluoride, do not swallow. Now here's the problem for the city of Potsdam. A pea size of toothpaste has a quarter milligram of fluoride, the same as 1 glass of fluoridated Potsdam water. Now we've got a problem for the public. On the one hand, the FDA says do not swallow the same amount of fluoride that the city of Potsdam puts in the water. That's a real serious credibility problem with our healthcare professionals. FDA safety, do not swallow. FDA effectiveness, the evidence is incomplete. Later in the presentation, you'll see that. Center for Disease Control, dental fluorosis only occurs when younger children consume too much fluoride when teeth are developing under the gums. Dental fluorosis is a sign of too much fluoride, a toxic overdose. Here's a picture of some dental fluorosis. We see white marks on the teeth. That is for cosmetic for most people. However, if I took a key and scratched your car, it's only cosmetic. Don't worry about it. Car will run just as well with that scratch or without. But for you, it might be actual damage on your car. For some people, this is actual damage on their teeth. When we first started dental fluoridation, public health professions said, my public health profession said maybe 10-15% of children will get dental fluorosis, but not more than that. In 1990, the CDC said the prevalence of dental fluorosis was 41% among adolescents. In 2011, that had increased to nearly 2 out of 3 children. Here's treatment of the dental fluorosis with veneers, costing about $12,000 and needing to be done with about every 15 years. Not everyone gets treated, and not everyone gets veneers. Here's an electron scanning microscope of some dental fluorosis, the cracks and pits and fissures that are in the tooth. The tooth becomes very hard, brittle, fractures and breaks more. Cosmetic treatment is expensive. We see another case of treatment. It is well-documented risk. Next slide. Huge increases in fluorosis. As we can see on the very bottom there, in 1990, there was 60% of children were unaffected with dental fluorosis. By 2011, 30% were unaffected. That's on the right graph. Now, let's think about that a little bit. What caused the increase? It wasn't a lot more fluoridation of water. It's more fluoride from other sources. We're getting huge amounts of fluoride from other sources. The best place to cut back on so much extra fluoride is water fluoridation, because we're getting too much from other sources. Next slide. Here's another problem with too much fluoride. The teeth become very hard and brittle, fracture break. We get more complete cuts, fractures in communities with water fluoridation. The little tiny pits in those teeth don't look bad, and maybe on a survey of decay, it wouldn't even be marked because it had fluoride. Now, if you don't have fluoride, those would have chipped away a little bit more, and you would have seen more. Next picture shows a little bit of hole at the beginning as we're cleaning out the decay. Next picture shows what we call a fluoride bomb. It has exploded inside the tooth. They're hard to get diagnosed on the outside. Next slide is 2 graphs, one from the British Medical Journal, another one from Fluoride Research. This shows different countries in the world where the dental caries has decreased regardless of fluoridation, regardless of fluoride salts. So we can get decay down regardless of that. But the next slide is probably the most important slide that you can have. This goes from 1930 on the left over to 1990. When my mom was about 9 years old, her generation of that age were having about 11 cavities per child. It decreased to when fluoridation started significantly in the United States to about half that, to about 5, and decreased since then. The question that you must ask those who are promoting fluoridation is, what caused this huge decline in dental caries prior to water fluoridation? Something was crushing that decay, and we have no clue. We don't know what it was. And what we say as dentists and public health professionals is, well, fluoridation has reduced dental caries. We don't know that. Maybe this huge confounding factor continued. Who's to say that it would have stopped immediately when fluoridation started? Of course it didn't. It continued, and in some communities more and some less. So it may not even affect fluoride toothpaste, may not affect it, but it might have had a slight benefit. It's just, unless you have research that controls for that unknown, then your research is suspect. That's like, here's one by an published in the American Journal of American Dental Association, and it is fluoridation at the very bottom, concentration 0.3 on up to 1.2. If you look at the low amount of fluoride in the water concentration, you'll see that the blue line shows some dental fluorosis. When we get up to a lot of fluoride in the water, we get a lot more dental fluorosis. The blue line, it increases. We all agree with that. Now the next line will be a green line coming in on there. You can see the amount of caries experienced. With low fluoride, then we start to have a little maybe decrease at 0.3 to 0.7, and maybe at 0.7 to 1.2. But notice also that there's an increase when we get too much fluoride. When we're adding fluoride to the water, we're getting too much fluoride, more dental fluorosis, as seen by dental fluorosis and other measurements, and we're actually causing more decay by giving children more fluoride. That is a huge concern. Next slide. Let's compare the states within the United States. The line that is ascending going along represents each state, the percentage of the people in each state on water fluoridation. The pink line across the top shows the amount of good to excellent teeth in those states. We can see that it doesn't make any difference how much you fluoridate. The wealthy people have about the same amount of decay regardless. Next point is we add the blue line of those on the low socioeconomic spectrum, and we can see that they are all consistently have more decay, fewer good to excellent teeth. And this is where I was making a mistake when I looked at my patients. And I said, this person has fluoridation. Yeah. Okay, well, yes, okay, fluoride prevents decay. The problem is, those were the wealthier people. And the poor people, I said, you need to have some fluoride. But they have more decay. Why? We have not determined that yet. You can't compare the wealthy with the poor. Next slide. This is a very important one on mother's milk. Most mother's milk samples have no detectable fluoride. Now, here's the problem with that. If you have no fluoride with mother's milk, which is the ideal nutrient for infants, then you turn around and you say, okay, I'm going to have fluoridated water to make my infant formula for the poor, so that they use tap water to make their formula. You're giving the infants hundreds of times more fluoride in that formula than what mother's milk is. Now here's some pictures at the bottom that show decay, and we all groan, especially as dentists, when we see a child like this, because we know it's just heartbreaking. But notice the bottom teeth on each of the slides. It's from the American Dental Association of Early Childhood Caries. The bottom teeth are fine. Why? Because the bottom teeth are being protected by the tongue, not fluoride. Fluoride doesn't just go to the bottom teeth. If fluoride were protecting in this kind of a problem, then it would be equal on top and bottom, but it doesn't help. The claim for every dollar spent on fluoridation chemicals, $38 in treatment safe, is speculation. It's based on estimates of assumptions. They assume that it's beneficial, then they estimate the savings that are there, but it's not measured evidence. Do you balance your checkbook based on estimates and assumptions? You could be in for a surprise. $3 per person per year is the best case scenario by one researcher, and that's eliminated when you look at the cost of treating dental fluorosis. There are other research I can talk about. Claims of top 10 public health achievements of the 20th century is marketing, not science. 88 award to Kentucky with 50-year award for 100% fluoridation. 42% had no teeth. Number one in the United States awards. Now this next slide, relationship between fluoride and the general cognitive index. More than 50 studies are showing, human studies, showing harm to the developing brain. If we look at this last one from Canada, Mexico, and the United States, we can see that between 0.5 and 1.5 maternal urine fluoride concentrations, this is measured evidence, okay? We find an IQ loss of 6 IQ points, very consistent with studies, all the other human studies except for 2 or 3 of them, and those were studies, 2 of them out of New Zealand and we could go into why those are concerns. The Food and Drug Administration is the one that says we must get their approval for any substance used with intent to prevent disease. It's not exempted because I diluted with public water. No drug is exempt from FDA approval. Even a drug that has no benefit is not exempt, simply because we say, well, we're going to dilute it with public water. Do not swallow. For efficacy, not effective. Here's what the FDA says. There is no substantial evidence of drug effectiveness as prescribed, recommended, or suggested in its labeling. Marketing is in violation of the new drug provisions of the Food, Drug, and Cosmetic Act. They have therefore requested that marketing of these products be discontinued. Just because you dilute that pill in a glass of water or in the water pipes of the city does not mean that it is now all of a sudden FDA approved or safe and effective. The EPA. Next slide. The EPA shows that there's too much fluoride. The black line, this is for children. Ages. All of those above the black line are ingesting too much fluoride. And this was when the EPA said, okay, we're going to permit 33% more fluoride, and we're going to propose that it's safe at more fluoride, and we're going to ignore the incidence. No, incidence not even included in the graph. And we're going to say, well, it's only up to the 90th percentile of those people drinking water. Putting a drug in the water is crazy because some people drink 10 liters a day. Some people drink 1 liter a day. Some people don't drink hardly any. And so to say that we're getting the same dosage, yeah, the water system people are metering it out very carefully into the water, but you aren't telling people to only drink 1 liter of water a day. So some get far more water than others. It's absolutely ludicrous to be dispensing any chemical in the water when people don't drink the same amount of water. Here are the EPA scientists. EPA scientists say no to fluoridation. In summary, we hope that fluoridation is an unreasonable risk. That is, the toxicity of fluoride is so great, the reported benefits associated with it are so small, if there are any at all, that requiring every man, woman, and child in America to ingest it borders on criminal behavior in the part of government. Any questions?
Very good, Dr. Osmondson. We appreciate it very much.
Thank you.
Is there a session for questions for the gentleman?
I can get him back on.
Why don't you get him back on?
Yeah, what about we talk to him?
All right, that's fine.
No,
You got
no,
No question.
No, he should be able to hear the other presentation.
Presentation, yeah.
Oh, you can do the other presentation?
Yeah.
No, it's